What if I told you that a single father, abandoned by his wife when his daughter was just 3 years old, would go on to build a tech empire worth billions? And that the little girl he raised alone would become the secret architect behind his greatest innovations? This isn't just another rags-to-riches story. This is about love, resilience, and the ultimate karma that comes when you choose family over everything else. While the mother who walked away lives with her regrets, the father and daughter she left behind built something extraordinary, something she could never have imagined. Stay with me, because this story will change how you see success forever. The apartment was cold that November night. Not just because the heating was broken again, but because of the emptiness that filled every corner. Marcus stood in the doorway of his daughter Sophia's room, watching her sleep peacefully, clutching her worn teddy bear. She was only 3 years old, and she had no idea that her mother had just walked out of their lives forever. The note was brief, cruel in its simplicity. "I can't do this anymore. I need to find myself. Don't look for me." That was it. No goodbye to Sophia. No explanation. Just a woman who decided that motherhood and marriage were obstacles to whatever fantasy life she'd constructed in her mind. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. He sat at their tiny kitchen table, surrounded by bills he couldn't pay, staring at a future that seemed impossibly dark. He was a junior software developer, making barely enough to cover rent. His wife, his ex-wife, had been the one with the stable corporate job. Now he was alone with a toddler, living paycheck to paycheck in a city that showed no mercy to those who struggled. But as the sun rose that morning, something shifted inside Marcus. He walked back into Sophia's room and watched her wake up, her big brown eyes looking around for her mother. "Mama?" she asked, her voice small and hopeful. Marcus knelt beside her bed, fighting back tears. "It's just you and me now, princess. But I promise you, I'm going to give you the best life possible. I'm going to show you that you're worth everything." And that was the promise that would change both of their lives forever. The early years were brutal. Marcus worked his 9-to-5 job, then came home to be both mother and father to Sophia. He learned to braid her hair by watching YouTube videos at midnight. He mastered making her favorite meals on a budget that would make most people weep. Every dollar was accounted for. Every expense was weighed against Sophia's needs. But Marcus did something that most people in his situation might not have thought to do. Despite having almost nothing, he invested in his daughter's curiosity. When Sophia asked why the sky was blue, he didn't just give her a simple answer. He took her to the library, and together they read books about light and atmosphere. When she wondered how computers worked, he showed her basic coding on his old laptop, making it a game they played together. The other parents at Sophia's preschool would sometimes whisper. The single dad who always looked exhausted, whose clothes were worn, who brought homemade lunches instead of store-bought snacks. But they didn't see what Marcus saw. They didn't see the brilliant, curious, compassionate little girl who was thriving despite everything stacked against them. Then came the aha moment that would change everything. It was a Tuesday evening. Marcus was struggling to help Sophia with an educational app on his phone. The app was supposed to teach basic math, but it was clunky, frustrating, and made Sophia cry because she couldn't understand the instructions. As Marcus held his daughter, trying to comfort her, something clicked in his mind. What if, he thought, there was an app that actually understood how kids learn, that adapted to each child's pace? That made learning feel like play instead of work. That night, after putting Sophia to bed, Marcus opened his laptop and started coding. He didn't have a business plan. He didn't have investors or a team. He just had an idea born from watching his daughter struggle and a desperate need to create something that could change their lives. He called it LearnWise, an adaptive learning platform that would revolutionize education technology. But he had no idea of the journey that lay ahead. Balancing fatherhood and entrepreneurship is a phrase that sounds noble until you're living it. Marcus's reality was working 40 hours a week at his day job, spending every evening and weekend with Sophia, and then coding from 10 p.m. until 3 a.m. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford. There were moments that broke his heart, like when Sophia had her first dance recital, and Marcus fell asleep in his chair, missing her performance. She found him afterward, still sleeping, and gently shook his shoulder. "It's okay, Daddy," she said, her 7-year-old voice wise beyond her years. "You're working hard for us." That moment nearly destroyed him. Here was this little girl, who had already been abandoned by one parent, now watching her father sacrifice everything, and instead of being angry, she was being understanding. Marcus held her tight that night and made a new promise. He would build something so successful that he'd never miss another moment again. The first breakthrough came in year 2 of development. Marcus had been pitching LearnWise to anyone who would listen, getting rejection after rejection. Then, a small elementary school in their neighborhood agreed to pilot the program. Just one classroom, 23 students. The results were extraordinary. Kids who had struggled with traditional learning methods were suddenly engaged. Test scores improved. Teachers reported that students were excited about homework for the first time. Marcus had proof of concept, but he was still broke, still exhausted, and still terrifyingly alone in this venture. He began applying for startup accelerators, grants, anything that could give him the capital to scale. 9 months of applications. 47 rejections. He kept every rejection email in a folder on his computer called Fuel, because that's what they became. Fuel to prove everyone wrong. Then came the near failure that almost ended everything. Marcus had finally secured a small angel investment, $50,000. It felt like all the money in the world. He quit his day job, hired 2 developers, and threw everything into scaling LearnWise. For 6 months, things looked promising. They expanded to 10 schools. User engagement was through the roof. Then the money ran out. Marcus had miscalculated expenses. The servers cost more than anticipated. The developers needed to be paid. The schools were using LearnWise for free as part of the pilot program. There was no revenue, and he was staring at bankruptcy. He'll never forget the night he realized they might lose their apartment. Sophia was 9 years old then, doing her homework at their kitchen table, using LearnWise on his laptop. She was so proud that her dad had created the program she loved. "Daddy, can I show you something?" she asked. Marcus, drowning in anxiety and failure, looked up. Sophia showed him a feature in LearnWise that wasn't working correctly. "This part is confusing," she explained. "But what if it worked like this instead?" She sketched out an interface design on a piece of paper that was remarkably intuitive. Marcus stared at the drawing, then at his daughter. This 9-year-old child had just solved a UX problem his developers had been struggling with for weeks. That night, Marcus made a decision. He couldn't give up. Not when Sophia believed in him this much. Not when she was already contributing to the vision. He called an emergency meeting with his small team and pitched a radical pivot. They would offer LearnWise free to schools, but charge for a premium parent-facing version that tracked progress and offered supplementary learning tools. It was risky. It was desperate. But it was also exactly what the market needed. Within 3 months, they had their first 10,000 paying subscribers. Within 6 months, they were cash flow positive. Within a year, LearnWise was being used in schools across 12 states. Marcus had bounced back from the edge of failure, and he'd done it because his daughter had refused to let him give up. How his daughter shaped his success. As LearnWise grew, so did Sophia's role in shaping it. This wasn't intentional at first. Marcus never set out to make his daughter his business consultant. But Sophia had grown up with LearnWise. She'd been using it since she was 7. She understood it better than anyone because she was the exact user they were trying to serve. By the time Sophia was 12, Marcus had established a monthly ritual. He called it Sophia Sessions. Once a month, he'd sit down with his daughter and show her new features they were developing. Sophia would test them, offer feedback, and more often than not, point out things that adults with decades of experience had missed. "Kids don't think like that," she'd say, pointing at some overly complex interface. "Make it simpler. Make it fun." Her insights became so valuable that Marcus started bringing her to team meetings. At first, the developers were skeptical. What could a middle schooler teach them about software development? But after Sophia redesigned their entire achievement system, creating a progression model that increased user retention by 40%, the skepticism evaporated. Sophia had an intuitive understanding of what motivated young learners because she was one. She knew that gold stars and generic praise felt hollow, but unlocking new avatars or earning the ability to help younger students felt meaningful. She understood that learning shouldn't feel like a lonely journey, but a collaborative adventure. But Sophia's influence went beyond product development. She was Marcus's anchor during the tough times. When he faced criticism from competitors or skeptical investors, when he dealt with the stress of rapid scaling, when he wondered if he was making the right decisions, Sophia was there. She'd find him working late in his home office and bring him tea. "Tell me what you're worried about," she'd say, sitting cross-legged on his office floor like she had since she was little. And Marcus would tell her. Not with the filtered parent-to-child censorship, but with real honesty. Sophia had earned that trust. She'd been through the struggles with him. She deserved to understand the victories and the challenges. You know what Mom would have missed? Sophia said one night when she was 14, during a particularly reflective conversation. She would have missed all of this. The building, the struggles, the wins. She would have just shown up after everything was done and claimed she always believed in you. Marcus looked at his daughter, now a young woman with her mother's eyes but none of her weakness. Do you think about her? He asked. Sometimes, Sophia admitted. But then I think about how much stronger we became without her. She was looking for herself, but she could have found the best version of herself right here, with us. That was her loss, not ours. It was in that moment Marcus realized that Sophia wasn't just a source of inspiration. She was wise beyond her years, shaped by adversity into someone remarkable. And while her mother was out there somewhere, living whatever life she'd chosen, she'd missed watching her daughter become this incredible person. The karma was already happening. It had been happening all along. As LearnWise prepared for major expansion, Marcus made Sophia an official title, Youth Innovation Consultant. At 16, she was being paid to do what she'd been doing for years, offering insights that no market research could match. She started speaking at education technology conferences, sharing her perspective on student-centered design. Articles were written about the father-daughter team revolutionizing education. Sophia handled the attention with grace, always redirecting credit to the broader team while acknowledging the unique journey she and her father had shared. We built this together, she'd say in interviews. He taught me that my voice mattered, that even as a kid, my perspective was valuable. That's what LearnWise is about, making every student feel seen and heard. And with every interview, every conference appearance, every innovation Sophia contributed to, the absence of her mother became more glaring. Somewhere out there, a woman who had walked away from this extraordinary person had to live with that choice. The pivotal moment of hypergrowth came when Sophia was 18, during her first semester at MIT, where she was studying computer science and cognitive psychology. Marcus had been in talks with one of the largest school districts in the country about implementing LearnWise system-wide. The deal would be massive, but the district had one concern. Could LearnWise scale to serve 500,000 students simultaneously while maintaining its personalized approach? The technology existed, but it would require a complete infrastructure overhaul. Marcus's team estimated it would take 18 months and several $1 million to develop. They didn't have that kind of time. The district needed a decision in 6 months. Marcus called Sophia. I need your brain, he said. What happened next would become legendary in tech circles. Sophia took a leave of absence from MIT and assembled a team of 5 other student developers. They called themselves the Youth Think Tank. For 4 months, they worked around the clock, developing an AI-driven adaptive algorithm that could personalize learning at scale in ways that had never been done before. The algorithm didn't just track right and wrong answers. It analyzed learning patterns, emotional engagement cues, and collaborative behaviors. It could predict when a student was about to give up and adjust difficulty accordingly. It could identify not just what a student was struggling with, but why they were struggling. When they presented the prototype to Marcus and his development team, there was stunned silence. Then applause. Sophia and her team had just solved a problem that education technology companies had been wrestling with for decades. LearnWise won the contract. Within a year, they'd expanded to 12 major school districts. Within 2 years, they were international. The company's valuation skyrocketed. Marcus, who had once struggled to pay rent, was now overseeing a billion-dollar education technology empire. But something remarkable happened as the money poured in. Marcus didn't change. He didn't buy a mansion or a fleet of luxury cars. He bought a comfortable home where Sophia could have her own space to study and create. He invested in his team, offering profit sharing and equity to employees who'd been with him since the early days. And he started a foundation. The Marcus and Sophia Foundation for Educational Equity focused on providing free access to LearnWise for underprivileged schools and communities. Every school in a low-income area could use the full platform at no cost. Marcus had lived that struggle. He'd been that parent who couldn't afford educational resources. Now he could ensure no child would be limited by their circumstances. Money, Marcus said in an interview, is just a tool. The real wealth is in the impact you create and the relationships you build. I spent years being told I wasn't enough, that I couldn't provide enough for my daughter. Now I can provide for millions of children. That's not about ego. That's about responsibility. Sophia, now a junior partner in the company and heading up the AI development division, echoed her father's philosophy. She donated her entire first year's salary to scholarships for single-parent households. My dad taught me that success isn't measured by what you accumulate, she explained, but by what you give and who you lift up along the way. The tech world took notice. Here was a company that was profitable, innovative, and genuinely committed to social impact. Other edtech companies scrambled to copy their model, but they couldn't replicate the secret ingredient: the authentic relationship and shared vision between a father and daughter who'd built something from nothing. And somewhere, the woman who had walked away from this family watched from a distance. Because she was watching. She'd seen the articles, heard about the success, seen photos of Marcus and Sophia at conferences, galas, and education summits. She'd reached out once, an email to Marcus's business account. "I'm so proud of what you've both become. I always knew you had potential." Marcus showed the email to Sophia. They sat together in silence for a moment. Then Sophia said, "She doesn't get to claim any part of this." Marcus deleted the email. They never responded. Because this success, this empire, this relationship, it had nothing to do with the woman who'd abandoned them. It existed in spite of her, not because of her. That was the ultimate karma. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Just the quiet, powerful reality that they'd built something beautiful without her, and she'd have to live forever knowing she'd walked away from the best thing that could have happened to her. Today, LearnWise serves over 20 million students across 47 countries. The company is valued at over $3 billion. Marcus, now in his early 50s, serves as CEO, though he jokes that Sophia is really running things. Sophia, at 24, is the Chief Innovation Officer and is widely regarded as one of the most influential young leaders in education technology. But if you ask Marcus what his greatest success is, he won't talk about the company. He won't mention the valuation or the awards or the impact on millions of students. He'll talk about the moment Sophia came home from MIT with her degree and hugged him, saying, "Thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for showing me that I was worth fighting for." He'll talk about their Sunday tradition of cooking breakfast together. No phones allowed, just conversation and laughter. He'll talk about how Sophia still calls him every night when she's traveling, just to say goodnight, because that's what they've always done. That's his definition of wealth. Not the zeros in a bank account, but the relationship with his daughter. The fact that she's not just successful, but kind, compassionate, and driven by purpose rather than profit. "People ask me how I raised such an amazing daughter," Marcus said in a recent keynote speech. "But the truth is, she raised herself. I just made sure she knew she was loved, valued, and capable. I showed up every day, even when I was exhausted, even when I failed, even when everything seemed impossible." That's not extraordinary. That's just what a parent should do. The lessons from their journey are simple but profound. First, love is the foundation of everything. Marcus could have become bitter after his wife left. He could have made Sophia feel like a burden. Instead, he made her his reason to succeed. That love created a safe space where both of them could take risks, fail, learn, and grow. Second, adversity is a teacher, not a sentence. Every struggle they faced became a lesson. Every setback was reframed as a setup for something better. They didn't ignore the hardships. They integrated them into their story and used them as fuel. Third, success is measured in relationships, not revenues. Marcus built a billion-dollar company, yes. But he never let that pursuit damage his relationship with Sophia. In fact, the company succeeded because of their relationship, not in spite of it. Fourth, your voice matters regardless of your age or circumstances. Marcus listened to Sophia when she was 9 years old, and her insights shaped a multi-billion-dollar platform. Too often, we dismiss young people, or those without traditional credentials. Marcus showed that wisdom and innovation can come from unexpected sources. Finally, the best revenge is living well. They could have spent years being angry at the woman who abandoned them. Instead, they focused on building something beautiful. That's the ultimate karma. Not wishing harm on someone who hurt you, but becoming so fulfilled that their absence becomes irrelevant. As for what's next for this extraordinary father-daughter duo, they're not slowing down. LearnWise is expanding into personalized career readiness programs for high school students. They're developing AI tutors that can support students in their native languages, breaking down barriers for immigrant communities. They're exploring partnerships with libraries and community centers to reach students outside traditional school settings. Sophia is also writing a book about human-centered design and technology, focusing on why products fail when they don't include diverse voices in development. Marcus is mentoring other single parents trying to break into entrepreneurship, offering both business advice and emotional support. But every Sunday, without fail, they still have breakfast together. No matter how busy they are, no matter what deals are pending or what conferences they're speaking at, Sunday morning is sacred. It's their reminder that everything they've built, all the success and impact, it all comes back to the relationship between a father and his daughter. There's a photo on Marcus's desk. It's from that first apartment, the one with broken heating and peeling paint. In it, 3-year-old Sophia is sitting on Marcus's lap, both of them reading a library book about stars. They look tired. The apartment behind them looks worn. But they're smiling. "That's my favorite picture," Marcus says. "Because we had nothing then. Nothing but each other. And look at what we built from that. We didn't need her. We never did. We had everything we needed right there in that moment. Love, determination, and each other. And somewhere, a woman who walked away has to live with the knowledge of what she gave up. Not the billions, not the empire, but the chance to be part of this story. The chance to watch her daughter become extraordinary. The chance to build something meaningful with people who would have loved her unconditionally. That's the karma that money can't buy and success can't erase. She chose to leave, and in doing so, she lost everything that mattered. Meanwhile, Marcus and Sophia continue forward, not defined by her absence, but empowered by the strength they found in each other. They turned abandonment into activation, struggle into strength, and love into legacy. And that, more than any billion-dollar valuation, is the real measure of their success. So what can we learn from Marcus and Sophia's journey? That our circumstances don't define us, our choices do. That the people who abandon us often miss out on the best versions of ourselves. That love, persistence, and partnership can overcome almost anything. That success built on authentic relationships is the only success worth having. The mother who walked away thought she was choosing freedom. Instead, she chose a lifetime of regret. Because while she was finding herself, Marcus and Sophia were building a legacy that will impact millions of lives for generations to come. They didn't need her permission to succeed. They didn't need her validation. They just needed each other, and that was always enough. If this story inspired you, remember, you don't need perfect circumstances to build something extraordinary. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself and the people who choose to stand by your side. The rest will follow. Because karma isn't about revenge. It's about reward. And the greatest reward is building a life so fulfilling that the people who left have to watch from the outside, knowing they could have been part of something beautiful. Marcus and Sophia built that life. And they did it together, one day at a time, one challenge at a time, one breakthrough at a time. Now that's a legacy worth billions. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe. Thank you.